and to tune his soul in such a way that he receives out of the spiritual worlds helping forces which flow to him, which produce equilibrium.
That sounds like some Steiner.
Right. Balance.
Which is right.
Balance.
So those different stages, right, are possibilities
Right.
that illuminate within the person,
Right.
right, which essentially pour into the soul development.
Right.
Right.
Christ in the wilderness was back at his lowest point. That was his shadow point.
Right.
So when we see him being tempted by so-called Satan, he was facing himself or his shadow self. So where your normal society at the time, a great population was already looking at him as the Messiah.
Yeah.
But on his personal journey, he had to face his shadow self,
Which everybody does.
which everybody does.
Right.
So everybody's the outside society is looking at him as he's at his high point. Inside of himself, he's at his lowest point. He's being tempted.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and jump. You know what I'm saying? He's going through all of these inner demons, so to speak, but the outside peripheral. And we see this a lot with our televangelists, our pastors,
Cult leaders.
cult leaders, everybody. Everybody. You're people lie in wait for the so-called enlightened one to fall. I know of, and I won't say his name, but I know of a very well-known local pastor who was seen at a bar having a beer.
Right.
And it was like the bottom fell out because the
Right.
man wanted to have a beer.
Right. Come on.
I don't even consider that a low point. I think he could have been doing a lot worse
Sure could have.
as a pastor.
Right.
In the majority, when talking to people, it might have been his congregation that had him in the bar thinking he needed a beer. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
I mean,
Right.
But my point of saying that is society will see you at your highest the way that they're viewing it.
Right.
But your inner turmoil of what you're working with, because you're trying to actually develop yourself,
Right.
you have to get back to a low point.
Right.
You're not gonna, you it's gonna be a cycle. You're gonna keep constantly going back and forth through, and does that make it? It can't just be the higher self, because, like I said previously, light is the source of the shadows.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going to happen is you're going to constantly see your own shadow and re-question your development and start over.
Right.
Unless you become arrogant and pompous about who you are. And then, we all have met the holier than thou. I got it and you don't.
Right.
I'm here and you not. That's why Christ was saying, ye without sin cast the first stone.
Right.
That went for himself also. Which is why he was able to tell her, okay, you good. Just don't do this no more.
Right.
You passed that point.
Right.
Now you here.
Which is interesting. I want to really touch on that. Not from a biblical stance, right? But I'm gonna take that same story so I can bring it into the spirituality of certain things, right? So when let's say this young lady, she was caught in this adultery or whatever that is. Let's take Jesus out of the picture.
All right.
But we're gonna leave the Christ in the picture.
Okay.
So what I got from this story that we're talking about right now, just got it, is that she was dealing with her lower self.
Okay.
Or the red chakra. I deal with a lot of chakra systems. So the red chakra, which generates a lot of sexuality things. So she might been dwelling too much in that
Right.
to not raise her vibration up to come into the Christ consciousness, or the Christ being that she should be. So something comes in, or the Christ comes in and speaks to her mind and say, repent
Or turn.
or turn.
Right.
Change your mind thinking.
Change the way you think. Yeah.
Change the way you think and go about your day. You'll be great. You'll be fine.
Simple as that.
You know, I mean,
Right.
I know I'm just coming off of,
No,
because
that-
some people may look at this and they may not be into the Bible a lot. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right,
Absolutely.
right.
So I'm gonna give them something that they can relate to, like, as in chakras and stuff like that. So they can get it, understand what we're talking about. Because I want to bring all of us into that one fold.
Right. Right.
I think one thing that I would add is that one thing that's common to every soul on this earth is that I think the path of initiation, there belongs to it a certain preparatory work that happens before you get there.
Right.
So, and we call that life experience, right? That might be relationships, right? Because we talked about this last week. You got relationships with everything. People, finances,
Persons, places, and things.
all of that, right? And no matter what you ascribe to outwardly, inwardly, right, there's a certain preparation that's unique to everybody. Everybody goes through that.
Right.
Whether they now in that you either conscious of it, right, or you may not be.
Right.
Just kind of all depends on, like, where you're at,
Right.
where your space of awareness lies.
Right. See, what I find interesting is, biblically, the Most High doesn't use you unless you're in your shadow self. Everybody that was very, very influential in the biblical story were in their shadow self and reached a higher consciousness. And that higher consciousness that they reached was documented. John, Moshe,
Yep.
everybody was Noah. They were in their lowest, even Adam. They all had to develop to be to get to a certain point. But when they were approached in their shadow self. Because if that is the light, the reflective side is going to be shadow. That's the balance of it, and that's the initiation. They would go through initiations, like you said, the to go from suffering, and there always is some suffering.
Hence, like, there's always a very detailed account theologically about the fall.
Right. Right.
The conversation, as far as I can recall, doesn't really is not really induced with the higher state of consciousness.
Right.
It's about you started here.
Here.
Right.
You fail.
Right.
You did all these, and then I think that there might be, because of that, I think there might be a hypersensitive awareness that kind of stays there.
Yes.
You fail, you're cursed, or this is bad, and that's evil.
Right.
God didn't want you to eat the fruit.
And different things like that.
right.
You know what I mean? And not necessarily, maybe some people do, right? But it's been far in between that I've seen, a conversation kind of start off in the elevated.
You were once one with the Creator.
You were once one with the Creator.
Right.
The thing about that motif,
Right.
Right.
in the void, you were there.
Right.
Right.
That statement alone says that now you're in your shadow self or your low place. So
So what? As we start unpacking this discussion, right? What's something that you can share with the listeners that was unique to your experience? During the path of initiation for you.
I'm still on the path.
Yeah. I was about to say, I think we're all on the
all
path.
still on the path.
Still there. Still trying to vibrate at that potential that we have.
Okay.
But just to start, start off, you could take the whole life journey, even, from birth to where you at right now.
Right.
And, I think all of us will probably continue on doing that, even if we have to continue to come back
Right. It's a
and
cycle.
redo it. And,
It's a cycle.
and as you try to get it,
Right.
I was listening to something the other day. It was like, continue on your path.
Right.
And the first time you say, I got it, you don't got it.
Right.
And then you stop trying to get to that initiation. You think you there. But the thing is, you start to go back down slowly. And they say when you come back down slowly, the effects is like double. So now you got to try to get back to
You can
your
see.
extension.
Right.
Your extension.
Right.
Right? So that's what I can just tell the people. But like you say, we're still on that path.
It's a paradox because in the experience, like, and through my experiences, I always get to a place of like, okay, it's kind of hard. It's like a place of, you're like, well, it's things that don't come into my purview unless somebody brings it into my purview.
Right.
And then you start questioning, well, am I too disconnected from all the stuff that's going on in the world and the things that's going on, right?
Right.
And it's also, it's one thing that Malak and I always say is like, man, my mind, my soul knows, but my mind's trying to catch up. It's concepts that come, but it's like it's there, but it's not there. And one of those concepts is there's nowhere to go. You're already there.
Right.
Consciousness is not a level thing based on what I feel I know. It's not a level thing like, let's talk about a relationship. Oh, it's my girlfriend. And you do boyfriend, girlfriend things. And then now it's a definitive, oh, I'm a fiance, and the relationship shifts to you're doing fiance things.
Right.
And then it's not, and then we're married, and then the relationship shifts to where it's a definitive line mentally. That's not how consciousness works.
Right. Right.
Consciousness works where you do the things that exercises, routines, and prayer, affirmation, whatever these, so many things that people do.
Right.
Meditation, sound bowls, music, dance, whatever.
Right.
And as you moving or as you become, your consciousness expands. It's more of an awareness that, oh wow, a situation arises and you realize that if this would have happened to me like last week, a year ago, 2 years ago, I would have reacted way different. It's a calmness about you. It's just something that's just different that you realize. And then when you start thinking about it, it's like, oh, I haven't done this in like 5 years. Man, it's been 5 years since So it's not a thing that you're drawing these lines and, like a football field, and you get into the 5-yard line, the 3-yard line, and then next thing you know, touchdown. I'm enlightened.
Right.
You're already there because you never left the Christ.
Right.
You have just created a realm within yourself,
Right.
to have experiences and move, expand your conscious back to where you already are.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
Yes, I agree with that.
Agree.
But comma, as you say, I agree with that. But because it's a cycle, is why you return back. Now, I do say it's levels, but you're actually going to. It's like completion is 361 degrees, not 360 degrees. That's your starting point.
You got to tilt the scale.
You're coming back again, and then you're going to have experiences. Because remember, if you're going in a cycle, you're at that high point. Once you reach the high point, okay, I'll give a perfect example. I guarantee you, everybody in this room has had a different school of thought before where you're settled at right now.
Right.
Can you remember when you thought you had it at that other school of thought? And that would have been the end. You're thinking like, this is what's for me.
Right.
And then something happens.
Right.
And then you're not falling. You got to start over. You're not the top or the starting point immediately becomes the bottom now.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to work your way back up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then you get to that top of that point. That's learning.
I read that somewhere.
That's
Well,
development.
It broke. I think we talked about it a
We
long
talked
time
about-
ago. It's
well,
like every time you get to that one point, you go through these phases,
Right.
and then next thing you know, you're at the bottom of a new phase.
Okay, right,
Yeah.
Exactly.
right,
Yeah.
right.
It's like when I think we talked about like going through the door.
Mm-hmm.
Each door you go through is like a whole nother journey.
Right.
You didn't open this door like, hold up, now I gotta start back. It almost remind me, you go into like martial arts. So,
Right.
you studying, but then when you go to another school of thought
Right.
that you want to learn, you right back at the bottom.
Well,